a lot. When it comes to being able to take AP Literature or AP, the junior year AP Composition class, and we've recommended them for it, and the teachers have said the student's ready for it, and the student doesn't want to take it because they think, oh, I'm going to get an ES in that. I've never had an ES. So I don't want to lower my grade point average. But it's really important to show that rigor and to show that you're ready for that English work for college level, okay? So that's why I'm going over this one more time to give you that push. I'm going to really be on the students that if your teachers recommended you for this level, that you pursue it, okay? Don't shy away from it. So taking the most rigorous course is important, and the advanced placement work is weighed heavily by the colleges. So a lot of the colleges will take the number of advanced placement courses that Tilton School offers and think that you should have taken half of those. Okay? Not all of those, because some of my international students will say, I want to take 6 AP courses every year. And we have to say, no, you cannot. You need a life. So it works both ways, right? We have some who are afraid to take maybe the English class, and we have some who just want to take all advanced placement. So we want you to do this work, do it well, do it sanely, and have time for being a full citizen of the school. Because again, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, these colleges are looking at all the different ways you're going to be a participant at their university. Right? They don't want someone who's just going to stay in their room and study and never talk to anyone. They want people who are going to be in their clubs, their organizations, on their teams. They need to make the whole university work, right? So if you're ready for that AP English class, I think I've covered that enough. Take it. So here's the other false myth that I have to deal with when I'm working with students. Well, if I just get that really high test score, that's going to be the answer. It's great if you get that really high test score, but if you're not a daily student, it all falls apart. They're looking for consistency, they're looking for the daily effort, and for that work, and improvement over time. So if you had a tough 9th grade, okay, you were a 9th grader, you're getting used to it, especially if you were here in 9th grade. You have the language differences, so they expect that it might have been a little bit more of a struggle. But you should start stepping it up in that junior year. And the junior year is not over, guys, right? We're just at the midpoint. You have a whole lot of time to create change between now and spring about what that transcript looks like. Because we gave you a transcript in your resource book, right? So you have 9th grade, 10th grade, and in 11th grade it just has the name of the courses that you're taking, the titles. Because we're not going to put anything on that transcript until there's a final grade. We don't report the quarter grade, we don't report the semester grade, it's the final grade. Until you get to be seniors. And in senior year, we do report a quarter grade when you apply. And then we send the semester grade. And then we send the final grade only to one college that you choose to attend, right? So here's the exception about these test scores. It's the TOEFL. We have to get that moving, right? We have to have that TOEFL score, at least at the school's average or better. So that's something to think about, because the colleges are only reporting their minimum scores. What you have to have for them to open your file, not what it is to make you competitive, okay? So there's research that you have to do. It's not so easy. It's not going to be in Naviance. You're not going to be able to go to Naviance and see what the average TOEFL score is. You're going to have to dig a little bit more, and it gives you a reason to write to a college and to talk to the international person and create a relationship, because you're wondering what those scores are. There are some universities that post it on their website. You have to go to the international student pages. One of my difficulties sometimes is working with that common application that we use to apply to colleges. Many colleges take this one common set of data and they use what they call the common application form. The thing is that students start to numb out and think, oh, I only have to do this. It's on the Common App. That's what they required of me. Well, there's differences when it comes to being an international student. There's other things you need to know, and it's not going to be listed on the Common App. You have to go to the school's website and read what the requirements are for the international student. So don't think that you're just going to be able to find it in Naviance or on the Common App. You're going to have to be researchers. Okay? So at any time if you have a question, stop me. This is a conversation. Great.
So if you don't have like a really strong performance on either the TOEFL test or the SAT, does that mean like there's just no hope for you, like for the admissions office to open your like, profile or whatever?
Maybe at that particular college, if you're like 1 point off, we can make a call and see if they can do something about that. But if you are, 5 points off, probably that means it's not going to be a good choice for you. Okay? Now, this TOEFL is a moving target, right? And we're going to talk about some timelines, about when we would like you to take testing and have things ready. Yep, guys, Darren?
So what if you're an international student that has studied in the US for 4 years?
Okay, that's a really good question. Some colleges are going to say that if you've had the standard English courses, not ESL, at a US high school, that's fine for them. Some of the smaller colleges will just take your English grades and your SAT.
Yeah. I'm just asking for a TOEFL.
And so for TOEFL,
You don't have to.
most of them you still have to take TOEFL.
Okay.
Most every place. But there are very few that you won't. And there are very few that if you get a 600 or a 650 on the critical reading and writing, they'll waive the TOEFL. There are a couple of those. But see, what's difficult about that is SAT doesn't test speaking,
Yeah.
right? And TOEFL does. So the speaking component is missing. They need that. Eric?
Does TOEFL apply to like international students from North America?
So if you're from an English-speaking country, totally, and your whole education has been in an English-speaking setting, so you would not have to. So where we come into a question is some of our Canadian students are from French-speaking Canada, and it's to their advantage, actually, to take a TOEFL, because they'll do better on that than they will on the SAT critical reading and writing. And that's a case-by-case basis. So if it's to their advantage, we'll recommend it, but it won't be required probably by the college. Okay, that's an area we have to kind of negotiate and see. But yeah. So we already talked about this. I kind of jumped ahead about when there's an exception to the TOEFL, right? And here's another suggestion. I'd really like to see that you stop using the translators and that you're really reading in English. Because when you get to these tests, you don't have time to translate, right? So you have to get used to being able to read. I hope everybody's dreaming in English. That's what I hope. Are you all dreaming in English?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a sign, right, that you're really immersed in the whole process here. So I need to let you know that we are not a TOEFL test center. That means you're responsible for your own transportation to this test, right? We are not taking students to the test centers and bringing them back. Once in a while, Mr. Casisto or myself are free to maybe give a couple of kids a ride, but you can't count on that, okay? That's just because we're making ourselves available, we're around, we're not doing something else, so we'll take you. But you can't count on it. The closest test center is Concord, New Hampshire. It's really only a 15-minute ride. That's the one you want. You don't want to wait till the last minute to make those reservations because they don't have that many test seats. And all of the Lakes Region Independent School kids are trying to get into that test center, right? So the Holderness kids are going there, the New Hampton kids are going there. None of us have our own test centers, so we're all using that Concord one. We suggest that you test on Saturday, February 24th, and we'll try to get you there, right? And we'll help you register for that test. The second test we think you should take in mid-August near to your home, depending on how you do on that first one, okay? How many here have already just taken a TOEFL, say, from November till now, have a test already? Anybody? Yeah, okay, so you have a baseline that you're working with already. The reason we say this February date is a good test time period is because you have a long weekend in February that you can actually prepare. You can concentrate on just TOEFL test prep. There's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's a long weekend, right? There's 4 full days where you can just cram it out to get ready. Yeah, for that first one. And then later, you have March break to get ready for testing, as well as visiting some schools, which is hard sometimes for international students, right? Because you can't rent a car, you can't, well, none of you are old enough to rent a car anyway. But you don't have anybody to take you to the schools. But there are a few that you might be able to get to with public transportation. Okay, we'll talk about that with your college counselor, about what the plans are for March. So the final test will be in mid-September for anyone who's doing early decision, in the end of October for regular decision. End of October for anybody doing January decisions. We want to have those scores set, okay? So you need to make a strategic plan. Here's a suggestion. It doesn't mean that that's what you have to follow, but we are going to try to get students to that test on the 24th in Concord. All right? So I put up a couple of different samples of TOEFL requirements. The University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign is a really large flagship. That means the premier, the highest ranked university for that state in their state system. And we have a lot of students who have been interested in this school, so that's why it's chosen. And for business, the middle 50% of accepted applicants have this kind of a score on the SAT, okay? The TOEFL is 103 to 110 on average, okay? Here's the key why I put this up. The sub-scores, right? Remember the listening, reading, writing, right? None of them can be below 25. You can have 103 and get a 21 in listening, and it's not going to meet their qualification. You have to get, they say it, no sub-score below 25. So read the fine print. Okay, you're going to have to, even though you got that 103 score, you're probably going to have to take that test again if you want that school. Okay? BU. How many people are interested in BU? Yeah. Okay, so they give you a lot of information to look at. The minimum scores for each section here for their School of Arts and Sciences. So they do it by the college or school within the university, right? Different requirements for different areas of study. And they tell you right out, writing has to be a 22, speaking has to be a 23. But for communications, for the general study school, they want reading to be a 25 because you're going to be in communications where there's lots of reading and writing and speaking with people, right? So the reading 25 compared to the reading 21. So look at what you want to study and what the requirements are. Look at the listening here, 18. I guess they don't care if you listen to that program. More important to listen when we're communicating. Okay? So typically an 18 means you can handle an academic classroom. You can understand the professor, all right? You're going to be okay. Okay, more fun. This is where you have to support your parents in the process. And again, you have to be a researcher. The certificate of finances, your parents may be familiar with them because they had to do something similar for you to come to Tilton School. But this is a little bit different. It's not really the college's requirement, but it's the US government's requirement to know that you have the money to come to school and not be a burden to the United States of America while you're a student, okay? So there has to be bank signatures on these forms. It has to be, what is key to you is some colleges want all this material just like they want your transcripts, your test scores, everything in order to review you. They want it at the time of admission. And you're not complete in the process and ready to read or have met the deadline for admission unless they have these documents. Other schools don't care about these documents until you say, yes, I'm going to your college. I chose you. Then they want those documents, which to me seems a little easier because why do all that paperwork? So my suggestion is, it's easier to prove that you have the funding for the most expensive college on your list, rather than trying to do all separate documents. Just prove that you have the funding for the most expensive one, plus your summer living expenses. And there's another whole deal that's going to happen with athletes, so we'll talk with you about those separately and how that works. Because you have different sponsors, basically, is what happens. So the form's filled out a little differently. So about half of the schools are going to want this form at the same time that your applications do. So if you have that October 1 deadline I talked about for early action or early decision, we need you to come back to school with these documents completed. Don't think that 2 days before the October 1 deadline that you're going to be able to text your parent and tell them they have these forms ready. Because the bank manager expects an appointment. They want your parent to walk in with all the requests at once. They're only going to be putting those chops down one time. You're not going to get those appointments at the last minute, okay? So you have to allow time for your parents to do this work. So that's why it's also important for you to confirm your college list by May 15th before you leave school. So we really can help you have that research completed, and you can go home and talk with your parents about which schools need those documents and get them taken care of with the banks. So there's a couple of copies of the certificate that you'll be able to click onto. In your resource book, you have a copy of one, a generic one, in that resource book. And there's a document explaining how to complete the forms. Okay? So when do you have to have these forms ready? October 1st for you, because you must be doing early action, early decision, right? Yeah, okay. It's unusual for you not to do at least one early action application, guys, right? So if anybody applies to the University of Michigan, they have to do early action, or they never hear back in time to make their own decision about which school they want to apply to. They don't tell anybody until like June for regular. Doesn't work. Okay? So we would be encouraging you to do early action. Here's a copy of the form, and we gave you a blank one in that resource book. So as you look at this form, the parent signs it with the dollar amount saying that's available for college, and a student also signs it. So you can, if you're doing this from school, they now accept scanned copies, so that's a great thing. Your parent can sign it, scan it, email it to you, you can sign it and send it with the college. All right? This is a sample of the bank statement part, right? Does that give you an idea what to do? Okay. We have the approval to be able to get this information to you and share it. So that's what we're looking for, 2 pieces. The form that your parent signs and you sign saying that this money is available for college, and the actual proof that this money exists in a bank. Okay? So some of the other documents that you're going to have to provide your college counselor with is a passport, the biographical page, the one that has a photo and your birth date, and a copy of your current I-94 card. Schools are going to ask for that. I know it doesn't exist, you guys. When you come into the country, you don't get a little white I-94 card anymore. But they'll ask for it. Okay, so I've just put it up there to say don't worry about that. Because it really doesn't exist. But they haven't updated their websites for some reason. And a copy of your current F1 visa page. Your I-20 is your F1 student visa page, right? Copies of that. So you have to provide us with those the very first meeting so we can keep those documents, and we'll include them with your transcripts. And another piece on transcripts that I wanted to cover with you. Oh, we're at graduation. So a happy day for all of us, and I breathe a sigh of relief. And then you communicate with me afterwards about what your experience is at that college, right? Because I need to know. Right? You talk to each other, but I need to know too about what's going on at that school. Was it what you expected, right? So you're going to stay in touch with me. Wow, we've already gone to your senior year at the end. I quickly went through that. Is there anything that you have questions about those documents? You understand the necessity of having a list ready by May 15th so that we can actually have this research. Doesn't mean you can't add in a new school later or take one off. We just want to have the major part of the work done and that we're not surprising your parents at the last minute and then having some frustration because then you don't meet the deadline. It's happened. And then you can't apply to that school. Or you can't apply to that school early action or early decision because you just totally missed the deadline. I don't want that to happen to you. Okay? So, what questions do you have about the process, guys? Who here thinks they'll be able to take a February 24 TOEFL? Thinking about it? Good. You would get a van, put you guys into one of the 3 buses. That'd be a good idea. That'd be the easier one to do. So you may take some of these tests over March break too. That's fine. I just be support.
Wait, February 24th is that long weekend?
No, it's after the long weekend, so they have the long weekend to study.
Okay.
The key thing is to get ready for it. The test, the first time you take the test, have you taken one?
Yeah, to come here. Yeah.
Okay, so quite a while ago.
Yeah,
Was it TOEFL or TOEFL Junior?
it was TOEFL.
Okay. So you know how weird it is to
Yeah, I
get
know
used to
the
the timing of it?
Yeah.
Like when you're supposed to respond?
Yeah.
It's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So the first time, it's good to do practices online to try to get used to that. Okay. All right, so your next session is at what time? 10:40? Okay. So you have a good half an hour. You should have questions. No questions?
The
Yes.
same was different for athletes,
Okay. So when you looked at that one form that's in your resource book also,
yeah,
and it says how are you going to pay for it? Family savings,
yeah.
sponsor. Yours would be sponsor, and it would be most likely Division I scholarship, Division II scholarship, whatever. And so the university is your sponsor. And so you put the dollar amount because it has a dollar attached to it. And that's what you'll do.
You just fill it out by hand.
Yeah. And so whenever you're walking through customs somewhere or whatever, through immigration actually, you'll always have to have your with you to show the proof. If they ask, they take you to a room and ask you questions. You'll always have to have that with you. But the school, the university will prep you on that, about how to come in. and what documents you should have on you, not sent somewhere, but carrying it with you. Okay. So we welcome our one parent, Mr. Lee. Lee, he's going to represent to all the parents in his country the college process for international students, right? Do you think so? I see. You two can team up and give a presentation for all our Teddy's family. Yeah. There'll be a leadership position. Okay. You guys have some free time. Please be on time for your next session. As you go through this building, remember, there are families meeting, so be quiet.